I miss seeing smiling faces. I miss hugging people. That is so me. I mean, I so want to hug people when they come to even pick up the takeaways, and then I do this whole namaste thing from a far off distance. But that's so not me, and I just really want our regular lives back.
Today on Dirty Linen, we are talking to Satt Makkad. She owns with her husband Pratt Three Idiots restaurant in Richmond. I don't like saying idiots and Satt in the same sentence because you're so definitely not an idiot, Satt. I love your restaurant and welcome to Dirty Linen.
Thank you. It's just that we wanted to come up with something funny, and that's my nature. So I thought idiot would be it would just be the best thing, the way I could introduce myself to the world or ourselves to the world.
So you and Pratt have been in Australia about 16 years. You moved from India. Tell us how you came to open your restaurant in Richmond.
We actually just came here as students and with nothing in our mind, just really wanting to learn cookery and get a different exposure altogether. And we really wanted to excel in what we do because we were not sure whether we would stay back or we would go back home. So it all just started as a small thing of us coming here to learn food. And we just loved the city and we stayed back. And then we worked at a lot of places and then we landed up opening our own. And it was actually Pratt's idea.
So it's all his fault.
It is all his fault. That's why I say he's the biggest idiot.
So when you guys came to Australia and studied cookery and then, worked in the industry, that wasn't in Indian cuisine, was it?
No. We've actually not had an Indian cook. I mean, we are Indians, but we've never really worked in an Indian kitchen, or we have had a lot of exposure in Indian cooking. So what we really have is just home style cooking that we try and excel in, and basically mom's recipes. Because in our own family, we have 4 different cultures because both our set of parents have had love marriages. So we could get a lot of it from our own mothers because they had to learn our father's cuisine, and they also grew up eating their own cuisines. So we really had 4 different cuisines in our own family straight up.
Tell me more about that, Satt. Like, what do you mean? Tell us why having a love marriage means that you would have different cuisines and different cultures in the same family.
So, I mean, my dad's a Sikh and my mom's a Hindu. So she's actually a Goan Brahmin, which means she's grown up in Bombay. So she's actually grown up as a Maharashtrian girl. And my dad is a Sikh, but he's grown up in Bombay as well. So actually, I shouldn't be saying in Bombay, it's Mumbai and now. But they just have a very different way of life, way of eating food, the things they eat, the way they pray, the way they do things. It's very different. But when they got married, it was them adjusting. And when we were growing up, we were exposed to both the religions, both the cultures, both types of food. So that's how I grew up. And in similar fashion, Pratt's parents, one's a Sindhi, so mom's Sindhi, and dad's actually fisherman by caste. So we already had those set of approaches as well. So we thought, there was a fair bit of information in the family itself to start the whole journey. And then of course we were blessed by having amazing neighbors back home, because we live in apartments back in Mumbai. So there always been a multicultural approach in our apartments. So a neighboring auntie was actually from Bangalore. That is where we really learned our South Indian bases from. So she helped us to learn some Chettinad. She taught us a couple of different South Indian curries. So we have a customer who taught us a little bit of that. So we really are just going by what we are learning as we go. So when we had the parents approach, Pratt's mom taught us the Sindhi part of the food, where we got a lot of brunch ideas. We got our goat curry. Sindhi mutton is what we call that on the menu. So my mom taught us vada pav because she really does that well, like the misal pav, which is like curried lentils eaten with pav. So we really just learning things as we go from them.
And I think it's so interesting. You know, you talk about this food from these different cultures and that it's a lot of home style cooking, but then you really do put a different spin on it in the restaurant. I mean, can you talk about some of your most famous dishes and the interesting presentations that you do?
I think the presentation actually really comes down from Pratt, because he's always loved the whole idea of having a chutney foam, like a green chutney converted into foam, because back home we all eat green chutneys almost every day as a part of our lunch and dinners. But if you just convert it into a foam, it's an experience. It just takes it to the next level. So it really just enhances the dish, because when you convert the chutney into a foam, it melts in your mouth. So when you have those mixtures of flavors and textures, it takes it to the next level. And I must give the whole credit to Pratt, because he really puts a lot of his heart, soul, and his brain into it.
And tell us about your chicken tikka, because I know a lot of people come to the restaurant for that.
Chicken tikka was something which was very close to our hearts, and especially back home in Mumbai, we used to do a lot of. So when you eat it back home, it is actually cooked in a tandoor which has charcoal in it, and then Pratt used to do that at home during our holiday time. So we used to have a small barbecue that we used to actually put charcoals on, and we used to do the tikkas at home. And then he's like, you know what, we don't get those sort of tikkas over here, so let's really smoke the tikkas up and let's really just take it to the next level. So that's how the whole smoking process of the tikka started, because just cooking a tikka in a tandoor is just not enough. You need to give it that in-depth earthy flavor of the charcoal, which is what makes the tikka so special.
But so explain what happens in the restaurant when you order it.
So when you really order one, so we've already smoked the chicken as a part of the cooking process. But when it actually goes to the customer, it is very important for you to smell the smoke of the tandoor, or smell the smoke of the tikkas, and we want the smoke to enhance the flavor. So what it really comes is under a cloth, smoked with this charcoal. So when you really open the clutch as the customer, the first thing that hits you is the smoke, which really takes you back home, because that's the most important part of enjoying the tikkas.
Well, yeah, it's a really great experience to be sitting in the restaurant and you see these smoke-filled domes walking through the restaurant and put down on the table. Everyone says, ooh, ah, and then
and we actually enjoy the expressions, because that's not what people actually expect in the restaurant, because they normally just expect it either on a sizzling platter or on a plate, and they don't expect smoke out of it. So it's actually nice when people say, ooh, what is this? I don't think I ordered that. And I was like, no, you did. What is it? I was like, it's chicken tikka. Oh, yeah, is that how you serve it? So we get a lot of different reactions, and it is nice to see that as the first reaction itself.
Yeah, it's a real experience. And I suppose, at the moment, it's really what we're missing. You are doing food as takeaway, but of course everybody's missing those in-restaurant experiences.
True. And we are missing these beautiful smiling faces as well.
Yeah, because I know that, when I've sat in the restaurant, you really know your customers. You greet a lot of people with a hug. Of course, it's not really that possible in COVID times, but there's a real warmth to the experience that you want to deliver, isn't there?
True. I really miss the hugs. I really miss them. I really miss seeing everybody, actually.
Yeah. Well, tell me what it's like for you, in these times. Like, how is Three Idiots navigating the pandemic?
It has been hard, but we've been blessed by an amazing community. Richmond has been really kind to us. So we've, it has been slow. It is hard to survive. But it's just, the idea is to make sure that we keep going. We've had a lot of our families help in again, which they've always been a part of. Yeah, it's just been hard, but I think it's just not us, it's everyone around us. Yeah, so it's just really hard. And I also think that what we do, we really can't justify it in a takeaway container. So yeah, it's been a little challenging.
I mean, you mentioned that you've had all this help from family, which, is, I'm sure, is so, well, it's just necessary, right? But tell me what it's been like. Staffing is something that everybody is talking about anyway, in good times in hospitality, but in these difficult times, I mean, tell me how you've been navigating that.
I think with us, I would say that the family has been the biggest support. My sister has helped us in the kitchen. She also works on the floor. My brother-in-law has actually taken over the job of a manager, come answering the calls, making sure that I have everything in place. I have another cousin who helps me out for 2 days. I've got Pratt's cousin who helps me out for 2 days. So we're really, really just surviving on all these kind, generous family members who come and help us for whenever they can. Because everybody does have other jobs as well. So we don't expect them to give up their jobs and help us, but whatever they can, we really appreciate.
So what about finding staff? I mean, you always advertising, like what's happening?
We've advertised. We've also put it on the door saying like we're looking for staff. We've also used the word of mouth, so we've also contacted our ex staff members. But right now it's just really hard trying to find people to work. So it is getting difficult, and with no influx of new students, it is getting difficult.
Did you rely on international students to work in the restaurant?
We did. Because especially with front of the house, because the kitchen, we still can employ people for 38 hours like a full-time contract. But with the front, because we've always had people who wanted 20 hours of work, and it worked for them, it suited them, and it suited our kind of business. So we've always relied on students, especially for the front. Yes. So that influx and not having the new students coming in has definitely affected the staff inflow.
Did you have people that went back to India, students that used to work for you?
Absolutely. We had a girl who used to work with us. She did only a couple of shifts, and she was actually wanting to apply for her residency, but I think she had to go back because her dad was detected with an illness, and she couldn't stay back. And of course, before that, her husband was stuck in India because they'd already lived away from each other for almost a year. Because of COVID, her husband was not allowed to travel here, and she was like hoping that he would be able to get here. But then the dad's illness actually turned out in a way in which she was like, my husband's not here, my dad's not well, let me just go back. So even the staff we had, and not that they wanted to leave us, but it's just the situations that kept arising in which, we had to let go our staff. So yes, of course, it has affected that aspect as well.
It's so, and then if someone leaves Australia at the moment, it's basically impossible if you're not a PR, if you're not a citizen, to come back. So people really have to make these very difficult decisions that, I guess,
True. And sometimes when you think of your life, but it's more important to be able to see your family as well. So it's something which is an emotionally challenging decision that the person has to make, which is the hardest, I suppose, because you have family on one side and you have your life on one side. But I always would go for family because that's me as well. So I kind of really understand where she's coming from as well. But it is hard. It is hard. COVID's made it harder.
It is, India's not that far away. It's like people are really used to building their lives around this idea that you hop on a plane, you go visit, you come back. It's that you can really have a foot in each country, but COVID's made that really super challenging.
Absolutely. I was just talking to one of our first boys that we had employed. He's now actually working for the AGL electricity company. And he actually just called us up yesterday saying that he's going back to India for good in November. And I asked him why. I was like, you have a job. He's like, I'm not able to get a job in construction industry, which is where his actual job should be. But he's like, I'm just, it's the lockdown's been on. I'm not able to do anything. I'm not able to find a job. The PR process has been a little difficult for him. So he's like, any which ways in May, if I can't do anything, I might have to go back. I might as well go back in November, and probably December, I start something of my own or try to find a job for myself back home. So at least I'm not wasting time. So people are taking such drastic decisions.
Yeah. And I mean, what do you hear about India at the moment? I mean, obviously India was in a terrible situation earlier in the year.
It was disaster. I mean, we had families, close family members who did have COVID, and it was hard. And my Pratt's uncle was actually in hospital for almost 25 days on ventilator, and it was hard. It was hard because we could see how devastated the family was, and his son was in Canada. I mean, it was really bad. The emotional side, the stress, and the whole thing that, whether he would really come out of it or not. He is fine today, but just that, if you remember that 1 month, it was really bad. It was horrible. It was pathetic. But of course, seeing what the plight of India was then, it was really bad. Like with so many people, people were dying on streets. People were having funerals left, right, and center. Not in the right way. They were just the families couldn't see the family, the person who passed away. It was hard. It was hard.
And what are things like there now?
Right now, they seem to be expecting the third wave. So the cases have actually increased, is what I spoke to Mum yesterday. Mum and Dad again, I have asked them. Mum and Dad are almost in their 65s. I mean, for Australians, we still call them young, but back home, they think, oh my God, we are quite old. So for Mum and Dad, it's very important to stay indoors and make sure that they take care of themselves, because number one, my sister and I, we are both here, and we won't be able to fly there or do anything for them unless we really we can't just fly there today. And if we decide today we need to go and see Mom and Dad because they're not well, we can't just take a flight today and get there tomorrow. So there are a lot of other due diligence that would need to be done now. So there are a lot of other factors involved as well. So we always make sure that at least all these 6 set of parents, when I say that, I mean my brother-in-laws, our parents and Pratt's parents. So, we just want them to be safe. And of course, we want everyone to be safe. But in this immediate family situation, none of us can travel. So, they're all in their 60s.
And what's the access to vaccines like?
Back home, I think all 6 of them have been vaccinated. I must say that the speed at which India is going around vaccinating people is really commendable. So in our apartment itself, they had a doctor who came in with a nurse to make sure everybody had a jab. So they're actually appointing doctors according to the apartments or according to the societies or according to, so for example, the first 10 apartments or the first 10 societies will be attended by this doctor and this nurse, and they will just go around making sure everybody has a jab. So they're actually doing it that way. And people who can afford it are even so a little bit of a middle class or an upper middle class can also afford doctors who can, and they're happy to pay instead of going and waiting in a line or a queue, and they don't want to be so they don't know where they're going to be standing in the queue next to somebody who has COVID. So they're actually doing it at home, and the doctors actually go home or the nurses go home to jab the people. Of course, there's a little bit of a fee there, which would be around $7, but that's for the facility of the doctor coming home and giving you the jab. So there are facilities of this kind as well. And I was just speaking to Pratt's dad 2 nights ago, and he mentioned that they have a farmhouse which is almost 3 hours away from Mumbai, and over there itself, it's such a small, I don't think I should use the word town, it's actually a village. And people over there also have been vaccinated. So he was actually quite proud of saying that because he loves that place. He loves that community. So he was actually happy that that community was also vaccinated.
So, Sat, I want to ask you about, you're in Bridge Road, and a couple of weekends ago, there was a protest that went up and down the street. I know it disrupted things for a lot of businesses there. Can you talk about what that was like for you?
Pratt was physically there on the premises when it actually happened, because we had a scheduled inspector to come in and check the premises, the food inspector, which of course didn't go ahead because of the whole thing. He cancelled and then he rescheduled, which was the best thing to do, I suppose. I'm not saying anything that was wrong, but I just think that it was a little bit uncalled for. Because
I think you could definitely say that.
I just really think we don't really. Just get yourself vaccinated. Just go on with your life. It's like I say this to everybody. I said when I'm having alcohol, we really don't know what's in it. When we are smoking, we really don't know what's in it. Like there could be ingredients written on everything, but you really don't know how is it going to react in your body. When we were kids, we were given smallpox vaccinations. We were given tetanus vaccinations. Like, you drink a cough syrup. You drink when you're not well, you have a Panadol. So you really don't know what's really in it. But why are we creating a scene about this vaccination to this extent? I'm not quite sure.
Well, tell us about your particular situation, because, we hear about people with underlying health conditions and sometimes it can seem quite abstract. But what's your situation?
My situation's similar. I've just had 2 infusions in the month of June. And the doctors have suggested that I should wait until January. But last week, I've actually spoken to my GP. He's actually going to do a couple of blood tests on me and see if I can get the vaccination any earlier. But if I do take it, it's actually going to be of no use because I actually have no immune system left right now because of the infusion. So it's going to be harder for the doctors to figure out if the vaccination has done any good to me. The possibility is it might actually harm me in bringing my pemphigus vulgaris back, or it would just do nothing. So I would actually have to just keep getting booster doses, which again, we will not be able to track down the line how it goes.
Just explain what your condition is, because they're long words and most people won't know them.
So I have something called pemphigus vulgaris. It's a skin-related autoimmune disease, and it's basically when you get boils on your skin, in your nose, in your mouth, in your esophagus, and anywhere in the body. Can be absolutely anywhere, and it's quite an interesting one because every morning you get up and oh my god, something's popped up over here. So and it's just hard to control. So I've been on immunosuppressants, steroids, and what's that medicine called? Oh my God, I've had a brain freeze now.
Anyway, a lot of medication.
A lot of medications for almost 18 months now. And so I was getting better last year, December, Jan. But I just had a flare up. And the doctors say it's the stress. So I think it's the stress during the Valentine's time when we went into a sudden lockdown. I think that was a little bit of a stressful moment for us because we were all prepared for Valentine's and then we all of a sudden went into a lockdown. And I actually haven't recovered out of it yet. So that's when the medication had gone up drastically. And I'm still reducing it by a gram every 15 days, but I haven't reached to the required one. So that was one of the reasons why I had to get an infusion, because the medicines to an extent were not really working on me.
I guess, the reason I want to sort of draw all these things together, Sat, is because you're in a situation where there's no staff, so you can't just take a week off to, look after yourself, reduce the stress of running a restaurant. You really need the people around you to be vaccinated to reduce the risk to yourself while you're in this position where you may not be able to be vaccinated. And if you can, they're just not sure because of the state of your immune system, how much protection you'll have. And you're in a position where you have to deal with the public when you're running a restaurant.
True. And it's going to get harder because people like me, we would be handful, but we would love to get vaccinated tomorrow, but we are not able to for medical purposes. But there is a group of people which can get vaccinated tomorrow, but they don't want to. And that is going to harm us more because, in normal circumstances, people like you, Pratt, everybody else are going to get vaccinated, are already vaccinated, are getting their second vaccination soon. But in our case, we would be the most vulnerable in this situation because we are the ones who are not protected in that fashion. So it's just about understanding that by a person not getting vaccinated, you're not putting only your life in risk. You're putting somebody else's life in risk as well.
And I think sometimes when people hear about, underlying health conditions, they don't think it could be someone who's standing right next to them, who's, on the tram, who's looking after them in a restaurant.
I look fine, but I just can't get one. So I'm absolutely walking around talking to people, but I just unfortunately cannot have it yet. I just have to wait for a green signal from the doctors because I really don't want to go back to where I was with pemphigus vulgaris, because it's not really a pleasant place to be, because then I can't even step out of the house. So then that means that the business suffers. That means that I have nobody to work. That means in spite of being open, we will have to probably continue doing takeaways because I physically can't be there.
Yeah, wow. It has a lot of flow-on effects. Yeah.
Yes, it's just a chain.
So when you see people walking past your restaurant protesting for quote-unquote freedom,
I actually quite laugh over it.
Well,
I actually laugh over it because I don't understand that why would people do this? Why? But I'm just not sure why would anybody, why would anybody want to put anyone's life at risk, or for the matter of fact, your own life at risk?
Yeah, that's true. It's very perplexing. I think the fact that you can laugh at it says a lot about your incredible character, because I find it incredibly frustrating to think about.
It is frustrating, but sometimes it's just hard to talk to such people. We have a notice written at the door saying that, we don't let anybody come in the premises. So the way we have handled the whole COVID thing is we actually have a barricade at the door, so nobody really steps into the restaurant. That is personally just actually for my safety, because I really don't want anybody to walk into the restaurant. Number one, a lot of drivers don't check in, so we don't really know where they have been. So we really don't want anybody. So we keep the door closed. We have a barricade outside. We have put up a signage saying that, please wait, knock at the door, somebody will attend you. So we don't, it's just hard because sometimes you really don't know who really has had one, who really hasn't had one, who really doesn't have intentions to get one. So it's just more really a precaution that I want to do for myself. But I won't be able to do that once we open up, because once we open up, we open up. And I would like to open up. I'm not saying I don't want to open up.
Yeah, of course. Everybody wants to get their business back up and going.
Exactly. Because none of the expenses, the expenses stay the same. Rent reduction really doesn't help, but government is definitely trying to help keep the businesses afloat. But that's not what a business is for. Business is for making sure it's all smooth, up and running, making sure that the wheels running without any hurdles.
Satt, let's finish with a nice story. Can you tell me about the chocolate brownie? Tell me the story behind that.
So chocolate brownie is something which is very close to me on a personal level, because that is something that I used to actually save money for. This is going back when I was in class 11, class 12 back home in Mumbai, and there used to be a cafe next to the college. And it used to be for about 150 rupees, which is probably $10 something. No, $30. No, 50 rupees is one. So $3. $3 is what we used to pay for it. And that used to be a lot of money back then. So now this is going back almost 18 years ago. And whoever used to buy it used to be a star in the group. So I used to love making sure I can at least buy it at least once every 2 months. So whenever you go back to dad and say, Dad, I need to buy this, he used to say, like, I'll get mom to make it at home, because that's what my father's theory was, that, want to eat something, I'll get mom to make it at home. So it always used to be walking for a few bus stops so that you can save some money. And you save that money, you make sure you have enough money to go and buy it. And then you take the whole lot of friends that you have, about 6, 7, 10, 12, and make sure, can I get a brownie? And they, you're going to get a brownie today. And it used to be so much fun, because it then used to come on a sizzling platter. And it was the best thing ever, because everybody used to say, ooh, you got a brownie. It was very special. And it used to make you feel very special. And I thought, what are these silly things down the line? And now when we look back, it was $3. It was so much fun. It has so much emotional connect to it. It was such a nice thing. It's not the money, it's the memories behind it. And it's actually a brownie. And it was in a cafe, which was next to a college. It was not even an Indian dish. But it's just so close to me that I always used to say, Pratt, that when we have anything of our own, we will definitely have a brownie. And we stuck to that. So we really thought of the whole thing, and we wanted to do a brownie. And that's why we have a brownie on a sizzling platter, where we take it to the customer, and we really do it exactly how the guys used to do it over there. And we wait for the wow effect. And it actually smokes up. And there have been times when we've had 3 brownies on a table, and our smoke alarms have gone on, and it has been hilarious. I mean, we have a blower kept specially for that, just so that if that does happen, we can just blow that air off quickly. And it is so much fun even now when we do it. And we make sure that we close the doors, we make sure we are coordinating, and we're doing it together. It is fun. Brownies are fun.
Oh, I just absolutely love it. This is why we need to be back in restaurants, so we can enjoy these beautiful experiences and just create joy for people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I miss seeing smiling faces. I miss hugging people. That is so me. I mean, I so want to hug people when they come to even pick up the takeaways. And then I do this whole namaste thing from a far off distance. But that's so not me. And I just really want our regular lives back.
Yeah, we'll get there, Satt. And, we're really going well with vaccinations. There's, thousands more every day. And it's really, I think, important for people to know the stories of those like yourself who, are just perhaps a few months behind in getting vaccinated because of absolutely no fault of your own. It's just, we're all, we're just all in our own health situations. And, people need to look after not only themselves, but all the people around them.
People around. And it's all about loving the community, making sure that not just you and the person next to you is fine too.
Absolutely. Satt, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. It just makes me even more ache to be back in your restaurant and everybody's restaurants and just be enjoying those beautiful communal experiences.
Thank you, Dani. Thank you for having me on. Thank you. This was amazing.
Great to chat. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This